All right. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Abigail Felton. I'm the Assistant Director of the ITA. This morning, we're going to have Kristen from Fashion Snoop speaking about the trends that are currently displayed in 538. Please check that out. After this, it will be about spring and summer 25. ITA currently partners with Fashion Snoop, so we're excited to have her here. So
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Good morning. My name's Kristen Moonjin. I'm the Director of Home and Lifestyle at Fashion Snoops. And today we're going to discuss all of the key shifts that are impacting the home market and particularly the textile industry for spring/summer 2025. But before I dive into the themes, I want to quickly talk to you about who we are and what we do at FS. We are a global creative agency with over 20 years of experience in trend forecasting. We service brands, retailers, and manufacturers in a broad range of consumer-facing industries. So if you're interested in seeing our platform or learning more about us, please let me know after the presentation, or you could shoot us an email at sales@fashionsnoops.com. So now let's dive into our 4 themes of spring/summer 2025, which are Fresh Coast, Outlands, and Sanct, and Equilibrium, all of which are on display around the corner in 538. So definitely check that out after this presentation. But for now, let's talk through these shifts as we connect the dots between cultural influences and product innovation. The first of our shifts is Fresh Coast. So let's get into it. So we all know how important coastal aesthetics are for the home industry year after year. It truly is one of the most evergreen aesthetics out there, but the coastal aesthetic is definitely getting a little bit more of a modern and fresh, hence the name update. We are seeing a more minimalistic design philosophy come through, which emphasizes clean lines, open spaces, and somewhat of a more restrained color palette that really allows the mind to breathe and find solace. So a lot of the themes you're going to see today have one thing in common, and that is that humans are not separate from nature, but we are deeply interconnected with it, which is definitely influencing a shift towards nurturing and coexisting with our environments that surround us, and fostering this mutually beneficial relationship between humans and the natural world emphasizes regenerative human-nature connections and the revitalization of our ecosystems, our communities, and even ourselves. I mean, I'm sure many of you can relate to the fact that you probably feel a lot better and more rejuvenated after you spend some time outdoors in nature. So not only are we designing for a more indoor-outdoor versatility, we're also looking for ways to bring the outdoors into our homes, so that even when we aren't spending time outdoors, we are reaping the benefits that nature has to offer. And this translates into a lot of nature-infused prints, natural textures, and most importantly, a biomaterial revolution. So this new era of materials is coming with sustainable solutions that combine a natural inspiration with a lot of cutting-edge technology. So we're seeing a lot of oceanic bioproducts that are coming to market, which are derived from renewable resources such as plants, algae, and even shell. So we'll dive deeper into all of that, but first let's watch a video that I hope will mentally transport you into a beautiful coastal landscape. All right, so how beautiful is that? I hope it kind of solidifies and helps you visualize the modern coastal aesthetic even more. But now let's dive into everyone's favorite topic, which is color. So if this palette doesn't scream beach, I don't know what does. But what I love so much about this palette in particular, though, is how it updates a lot of your traditional coastal colorways. And it takes some of those traditional hues that we typically see and updates it with a very clean and crisp take on these colors. So there's a lot of tonality being seen across the board for this in particular, but especially for a lot of those blues and greens that are very much inspired by marine hues. So you get a really beautiful range of color from your light blues like the breezy blue and the pistachio gelato to your mid-tones such as the cornflower and the envy, and then all the way down to your deeper tones such as this beautiful and emerald color. And this is a great color palette for pattern directions as we're seeing a lot of tonal prints come to the forefront. We're also seeing a push towards reds and yellows. So if you follow fashion, you know that a lot of these colors and variations are very popular this season, and they're definitely translating into the home market as well. And these type of views work really well for coastal aesthetics. And they actually create a little bit of a less obvious primary color palette, which is something that we are seeing emerge very heavily for the home industry as well. So now let's take a look at how Fresh Coast is inspiring and driving newness from a materials and surfaces perspective. I touched upon it briefly, but two of the most important things to consider here are performance fabrications that work for both indoor and outdoor use and sustainable material innovation. So the rules for materials here is quite simple, really focusing mainly on renewable energy or low impact tech, sourcing in harmony with nature, exploiting multifunctional approaches, and making better use of bioengineered alternatives so that a better future is possible for many generations to come. I mean, we're all grappling with the byproducts of globalization, consumerism, and climate change. And therefore, as designers or manufacturers, we really need to seek out an alternative path, one where sustainability really aligns with wellness and community and nature. So here we dive a little bit deeper into it, and you can see examples of different material innovations. I'm going to sound like a broken record by the end of this, but we really are redesigning our spaces for a greater indoor-outdoor connectivity, meaning that we have to take the elements into consideration here. So we're seeing things like UV and fade-resistant bamboo, which is shown here as a decking, but it's definitely very important for furniture design as well, especially with rising temperatures due to climate change. We're also seeing that a lot of our performance fabrics are getting a more sustainable upgrade. This one showcased here by Carnegie is actually the first plant-based high-performance upholstery fabric on the market, and it's crafted from rapidly renewable sugarcane, which has a much lower carbon footprint than many of your other bio-based sources, such as beet or corn. So we have to reorient ourselves away from current sourcing streams and look towards biomaterials, engineered natural waste, and upcycled ocean waste as a way forward and as a powerful primer for a more sustainable design future. Now really is the time for adaptability. Then we can look at it from a surfaces perspective. We're definitely taking cues from the natural world as well. So we're seeing things like sandblasting and hammering techniques that mimic the natural flows of ocean currents. So do these wrinkled and relaxed layers. There really is this softness and organic quality to all of the elements seen here. I personally love the 3D printed knots because A nautical knot is a classic, and I love the idea of reinventing it in a very cool new way for furniture design. And last but certainly not least are these bio-derived dye stuff and inks derived from plant waste, wood, or ancient minerals like ochre or volcanic soil mixes. And this is a huge conversation that we're having here at FS. We are looking at natural dyes and local dyes in particular, which are all gaining popularity. And we love the idea of using materials that are abundant in a specific region of the world and utilizing them as dyes. So ultimately, the processes here are designed to be as circular as possible, letting one action inform another. From recovered wastewater for dyeing to undyed surfaces that can safely return back to the earth. The goal is to always make intelligent use of our constraints here. Now we make our way on into patterns and graphics that are driving this shift. And we're met with the easy cabana stripe. And if you attended last season's presentation, this is an evolution of fall's whimsy streaks. These Breton and awning stripes return with a fresh coastal sensibility. This is a very classic pattern, but what updates it is the use of color. And we really love, I particularly love the sofa in the bottom right corner, which is this Finch yellow and auburn colorway. I think it's just so scrumptious, the color usage here. And it really brings this classic print to an entirely new dimension. So when considering this print, note that smooth natural surfaces and materials will help to maximize the clean, crisp nature of the print, and also be sure to maintain that wide contrasting line for the bold effect. The oversized composition is really key for this one. Next up, we have the ultra comforting Sea Spray Speckle. So this one is an evolution of fall's flecked formation, and it marks the return of terrazzo. But as you can see here, it's a lot more elevated than the terrazzo that we've seen in the past. And it's heavily inspired by the natural patterns found in sand grains or on seashells or even on water-dwelling fauna. These repeats are freckled with organic flecks and blotted dabs in these super soothing beachy hues. So it's a bit of an understated pathway, but you could either experiment with the density and contrast for either maximal or minimal impact here. Next up is one of my favorites, which is Opaline Dream. And this patternway utilizes a lot of those tonal colorways that I spoke about earlier. And it is this iridescent update to your traditional marbling. But these shimmering, swirling ripples and gleams really add a new dimension to the print. And this would be great to consider for some more high shine fabrications to kind of add a wet or frosted or slick glass-like look to your materials. And lastly, for Fresh Coast, we have what we're calling Fragile Flourish. And these carefree wildflowers are bursting with color and offer a touch of naivety, if you ask me. I mean, these are really beautiful prints, but what I love the most about it is the introduction of coral, as you could see in the middle image here, which is a key icon for spring, summer 2025, and it gives it a bit of a coastal feel. It really is a nice nautical take on your botanical print. And to ensure proper execution, you should definitely avoid compact or overwhelming coverage and instead allow each of the individual elements of the repeat to have ample space and shine through. So this is definitely your most conversational print for this story. Now let's move on to outlines. So we're kind of moving away from our coastal landscapes and traveling to the countryside for this shift. And Outlands is inspired by the rustic charm and natural beauty of a countryside cabin, which is nestled amidst rolling hills and verdant meadows. And this is kind of your update to some of your cottagecore aesthetics that we saw a few seasons ago, but with a focus on living more mindfully. And we're definitely paying homage to a lot of your organic textures, your rich earthen hues here, and a lot of your natural materials. So similarly to Fresh Coast, we are definitely designing our spaces to harmonize with our natural surroundings, to further embrace sustainability and a connection to the land. And this is an ongoing conversation and theme across all of our shifts, and it's going to continue for many seasons to come. But what sets this story apart from the others is the correlation to the rise of the artisan economy here. So as we're returning to more of this simple, idyllic lifestyle, we are definitely seeing a resurgence of time-honored craftsmanship. So the production of goods and services that are created by skilled artisans who specialize in traditional craft and handmade techniques is on the rise. And the reason being is that consumers really are gravitating towards items that have a one-of-a-kind feel. They feel more authentic. They just have that handcrafted feel to them. And the younger generations in particular are definitely drawn to this resurgence of vintage and upcycled goods, really bringing new life to previously loved items. And they definitely have a really great understanding of the impacts of their purchases, and they understand that their purchases highly impact their environments and the economy, and that they are really looking to reshape a lot of these practices. And they aren't afraid to mix and match prints and play with materials and textures to kind of create a unique aesthetic that is individual to them. So you'll kind of see examples of this through the video and through the following pages, but let's play the video and get into it. So as you can see, we are definitely going back to simpler times. We're embracing some of these really nature-infused hobbies. We're gardening more, we're growing our own fruits and vegetables, we're baking more bread, you know, we're really spending time with these time-honored practices more so than we have in a while. So we definitely have a quite rich and diverse palette for this story. And as you can see right off the bat, this shift is grounded in this beautiful range of earthen browns and taupes and creams. And one of my personal favorites and a favorite of us at FS is this blazed brown. It's a mid-tone brown with a beautiful warmth to it. It's a super versatile and color, and it's a great base color. And from there, we have some really great orange tones. And at both High Point and Milan Design Week recently, we saw this voltage orange really grow in popularity. And it's definitely a color to consider for the upcoming seasons. And then we have our glazed cherry, which is another red. And this time it's more of a true cherry traditional red as opposed to the one that we saw in Fresh Coast, which had a little bit of a orange tinged visceral hue to it. Then we see colors like Jupiter and Pop, which are great accent colors for this shift amidst a lot of your more earthy neutrals. And it's followed by this stunning range of pastel hues. Then towards the bottom of the palette, we have this beautiful range of greens and blues. Greens and blues are definitely our biggest colors for the upcoming season. So we're going to see a lot of them. And they really just further the connection to our natural surroundings. Then as we move on to materials, you'll definitely start to see a lot of the artisan, handcrafted elements come through here. The intersection of craft and sustainability and heritage combine to bring forth this sense of elevated rusticity here. And the goal for materials and finishes isn't just to be rooted in natural beauty, but also the principles of creativity and upcycling and practicality as a collective. So the possibilities are really endless when you combine the knowledge of these skilled artisans with organic materials. And as a result, we are seeing design that embraces some really beautiful, humble textures, some more of those harvested dyes, and overall just really beautiful rustic constructions. Then we get into our material pages, and as consumers refocus their sights on quality goods and services, materials also take note, adopting some of these dense and durable handcrafted constructions or these rugged cotton and hemp blends, perfect for time spent both indoors and outdoors, which I'll keep emphasizing. Additionally, we are seeing for hard goods, AAA grade teak, spruce, beech, and pine timber continue to grow in popularity for sustainable builds while still impressing with their warmth and comforting qualities. We're also seeing new aluminum approaches that mimic the vibrancy and energy of natural settings in a host of these beautiful sun-rich color codings. Moving on to surfaces, we continue to work with the land here and its provisions, really bringing forth this softly rugged wax coating that just saturates surfaces for a naturally waterproof outcome. So these fire-coated ceramics offer a similar effect for terracottas. We're also seeing basket weave techniques work in a similar fashion, beautifying these wild reeds and these grasses and these stiff leathers together into really cool interlocked compositions. Then we get into our patterns and graphics. So we are met with our cabin plaid here, a classic print. It's very cozy and familiar, and it returns as an evolution of fall's honored heirloom plaid. It has this handcrafted and worn-in feel to it, thanks to the use of a lot of these tactile textures that I'll keep emphasizing, and a lot of these nostalgic, earthy hues. I really love how the imperfect line work here enhances the rugged and rustic feel, while this earthy palette helps to ground it in nature. Next up, we have what we're calling pastoral patch, and these abstract forms with a bit of a rural flair add a homegrown and rustic charm to both soft goods and upholstery. And this one also has a bit of a rugged and unrefined feel to it, thanks to the use of these hand-stitched patches that we're seeing and these loose organic brush strokes. This one is suited best for use of clay and sand, which reinforces the Western spirit of these prints, almost taking on a bit of a sun-drenched appeal. And this one is a great transition from our pastoral patch, and it is what we are calling Western spirit. So a staple symbol of Americana, these elevated equestrian icons speak to Western romanticism and a cultural longing for humble rural comfort. So consumers are really resonating lately with Western Americana influences, and that's why we're seeing a lot of horses, horseshoes, cowboy boots, cowboy hats, all these Western iconography come through across the board for all home categories. And it's no surprise that it's coming through for patterns and graphics as well. I would actually recommend that you look at vintage imagery as an illustrative guide to maintain a more authentic and vintage feel when approaching this kind of print. And lastly, for outlines, we have blocky blooms, which are these striking macro florals that deliver maximum impact. And these are coming through heavily in these punchy monotones and earthen neutral colorways, exuding this carefree confidence and energetic zeal. And my favorite thing about these florals is the handcrafted feel that they have, alluding to a lot of those artisan sensibilities that we've been talking about here. Moving on to our third shift, we have Saint. And Saint is actually one of my personal favorites because it marks the return of bohemian aesthetics and brings this free-spirited essence to folkloric living for the season. And this shift also celebrates time-honored rituals similarly to Outlands, but it's infused more heavily with your cultural symbolism. And there's this nomadic spirit of bohemian wanderers that burst through with this explosion of color and texture, really embracing a lot of your folkloric patterns, your symbols, your motifs, and overall this intricate craftsmanship across the board. So we're definitely seeing this merging of different cultures and different regions coming through heavily for home more, and the interesting thing about it is that you're not really quite sure what it's referencing, what culture you're referencing, what region you're pulling from, because we're pulling from so many different regions to create this really beautiful collection of aesthetics. And this is because consumers are really very much inspired by their travels, and they want to incorporate different pieces from different places that they've been to create this atmosphere that celebrates multicultural representation. And by featuring diverse cultural perspectives, design can really create a more welcoming and more inclusive environment for individuals from various backgrounds, really sending this powerful message that everybody's experiences and everybody's identities is valued and respected while encouraging this creativity and innovation at the same time. So let's play the video. So as you can see, you're not really sure where this place is. Is it Portugal? Is it Mexico? And that's really the beauty of this shift. And then we get into our color palette. So it features an impressive range of these beautiful enlivened midtones. And they are colors that feel weathered and worn. And they feel distinctly familiar, yet like nothing we've ever seen before at the same time. And a lot of these oxidized and rich earthy pigments signal consumers' desire to welcome in objects that are steeped in history and storytelling, resulting in this treasure trove of nostalgic and comforting use. And then, of course, amidst all of these beautiful midtones and some pastels, we had to throw in some brighter pops like glazed cherry again, pop pink, and galactic to add a bit of zest to the palette as well. Moving on to the materials aesthetic. So craft adopts a deeper meaning for this shift, really identifying the material maker as a skilled and self-determining artist rather than just a producer for consumption. And their work, both expressive and mindful, leverages the unused in new ways and transforms once forgotten techniques into these radically maximalist and ornamental creations. And there's a bit of a maximalist renaissance happening in contrast to some of the more essentialism conversations that we're having. And the reason being is that consumers really want to indulge in little luxuries, regardless of how small, as a reprieve from the pressures of responsible consumption. Now, that does not mean that sustainable efforts go out the window here at all. Consumers are finding ways to indulge in these eco-friendly ways, looking at a blend of resources, eras, and cultures for inspiration here. So with all that being said, material making becomes a means of treasuring and honoring heritage skill sets. From hand-tied rattan to heirloom-inspired ironwork and sculpting, time-honored crafts and techniques aim to nurture the spirit of creativity. And we're seeing things like vintage upholstery and drapery fabrics that are recast with a fresh perspective and lovingly restored into these beautiful new hybrids. We're also seeing this push towards these beautiful velvets and these colored marbles here as well. And this just adds to the sentimental value of our goods we are purchasing as consumers, as we really want to fill our homes with pieces that tell a story and feel very meaningful to us. So the surfaces for the shift embrace layering and intricate ornamentation as a humble symbol of a passion and skill set. And everything is meticulously crafted here. We're seeing expressively stitched embroideries, tufting effects, and screen prints that have a way of archiving stories and really telling that story even further. We're also seeing things like crafted mosaics, which makes really good use of wasted resources, by the way. And it takes on a little bit more of a literal approach to preservation. We could also see how these gilded embellishments, patinaed surfaces, and molten weldings all share this unique approach to metal artistry, transforming aged techniques into novel and new works of art. So the first of our patterns and graphics directions for this story is called Lush Allegory. We're seeing these vibrant hues and expressive symbolism serve as a canvas for storytelling even further, and with each piece representing collective voices of the past, the present, and the future. And this is a great way to incorporate many of this season's icons into your print directions, such as the snake or the different floral motifs that we're seeing. And this is a favorite of our entire team as well, because it's incredibly joyful and spirited at the same time. And I would personally recommend layering these different motifs and pattern ways as seen on this pillow assortments, just to create a really energetic and fun assortment. Next up, we have solar flares. So another really popular icon is the sun, and it is reemerging for good reason. Throughout history, the sun has remained a powerful and universal symbol for life, for energy, and for spiritualism. So it makes sense now that people are looking for deeper connections to the things around them, that they are gravitating towards icons that hold such profound meaning. And a great use of this print is to create a rhythmic repeat, as it takes on kind of a similar feel to the tile print. And I'll actually be talking about tile prints in the following page, but I just love how it combines with some of your more traditional tile prints. And I'll get into it right now. So here we have our meditative geos, also known as our tile prints. And these beautiful architectural repeats are inspiring a range of prints for soft goods and upholstery. And what's so special about these repeats is that they act as a visual representation of tradition. I mean, vivid tile work is something that many different cultures around the world have incorporated into their design heritage. I recently visited Portugal, and every corner I turned, there was different tiled buildings, and it was so beautiful and so inspiring. And so tile work is a really great resource to inspire a lot of your upholstery directions. And these tiled prints can be done in a number of ways, as showcased here. We are seeing micro-scaled and tonal colorways that refine the repeat, while also seeing that these kaleidoscopic mirroring techniques can be used for a bit more of a meditative approach. I personally love the idea of incorporating a border print here to create more of a placement print. And lastly, for Sanct, we have ornamental meadow. So these decorative florals return with opulence and grandeur as we look to artisanal techniques and applications for inspiration here. They're very ornate, but still incredibly elegant and humble when paired with some more of your hushed, earthy tones. We're also seeing a bit of a paisley injection here, which is definitely a key print to consider. And my recommendation is to keep the palette muted and airy to really enhance the intricacy of the floral motif. Moving on to our final shift of the day, we have equilibrium. So equilibrium is by far the most subdued shift of the season. It's where simplicity coincides with luxury. And you could say this is an evolution of the quiet luxury aesthetic that really rose in popularity last year, but it's much more steeped in nature. And these clean lines and uncluttered spaces here provide consumers with that much needed sense of serenity. So in today's fast-paced and interconnected world, it is becoming increasingly more important for all of us to nourish introspection and allow ourselves to sit in this stillness. And it's in this introspective mindset that allows us to take a pause, to gain deeper understanding of our purpose in life, and to really become more intentional. And that includes becoming more intentional with our purchases, pursuing products and designs that align with our well-being. And there truly is something profound about simplicity and minimalism when viewed from this lens. It really encourages us to reevaluate our relationships with material possessions and understand that well-being should be at the core of all design. All right, so now we move on to our last color palette of the day, and we're met with this collection of nurturing midtones and neutrals infused with this washed organic quality. And this palette really embraces timelessness and classic shades, but it's become mostly because it's become increasingly more important for consumers to look for cross-seasonal longevity when they're choosing their colors and their materials and their patterns, because with economic stressors and everything going on in today's world, consumers really value that longevity that comes with certain pieces. And with this palette really reinforces that sentiment. And these powdery hues are very versatile for their age quality, but they still maintain a sense of newness with their desaturated undertones. So this palette really highlights that sentiment, and it also celebrates the colors found naturally in our surrounding environments. Looking at our materials aesthetic, we really are following suit to embrace slowness and mindfulness when approaching materials. And design is taking a more of a conscious and simplistic footing, but simplicity is not less just for the sake of being less. It challenges us to find more meaning and value in the materials that we're considering. And with that, we are prioritizing deep connections between material consciousness, native resources, and local skill sets. And the result is a very sophisticated and meaningful take on contemporary design. So when we take a closer look at material usage, we are looking towards redesigning our everyday basics. And we're looking at items that feel beautifully lived in. So these beautiful lived in textures from the slubbed cotton, the flax, the jute, and the hemp yarns are great examples of this. We're also embracing these dense and low pile velvets here as well, as they are really revered for their long-lasting elegance, and they lend a bit of a warming component to some assortments. And this is a modern minimalist story. So clean and simple hard surfaces are key here, from your lightly colored limestones to FSC sourced oak and walnut woods. And there just really is this element of restraint to be found in all of the materials that we see here. So what does this look like from a surfaces perspective? So the finishes here approach modern aesthetics with the use of sustainable age-old techniques. So imperfection is really key here. It is celebrated, and it's celebrated for its authentic spirit across both hard and soft goods. And these imperfections feel intentional when delivered in this way. They also feel very organic. So texture is very key here. Because this aesthetic is so minimal, the use of texture really brings in that much needed tactility, whether that be for ceramic glazes or on coatings or from vegetable tan leathers that aren't quite perfect. Layering is also a really great way to add subtle visual interest, whether that be from paneled woods or from some draped shears. Moving on to our first pattern and graphic print, which is called mirrored lineation. And this is a beautiful and meditative stripe. I cannot emphasize enough how strongly metallic threads are coming through across the board for home. And this is a very approachable way to incorporate it into your assortments, because it takes a very traditional print and updates it with that subtle gleam and glimmer. And it gives it a bit of a sleek and luxurious edge to it. You'll also notice here how low color contrasts are driving this repeat. So they are soothing, they're mellow in color, yet crisp in this burnished brilliance. Next up is Cinnabar Sands, which is inspired by these beautiful dusty rhythms. And this fiery dye effect captures the majesty of earthen textures and arid landscapes. And it is expressed in these beautiful sun-baked umber hues, which is key here because these gradient dyes work best when they're done so in this warm desert colorway. Here we have what we're calling hypnotic harmony, which are these universally appealing interlocking forms. And there is quite a meditative and mindful quality to these very understated geos, yet they still invigorate the senses without becoming too overpowering in a space. In fact, they really help to elevate a space with their soothing, repetitive forms. This too really works well with these beautiful mellow and muted earth tones because it really allows a lot of that tactile quality to some of the materials to really shine through here. And last but certainly not least is scorched contour. So sketch delineation returns this season, but with an added sense of drama. They're a bit chaotic in feel, but still very organic as well. It adds just a little bit of grunge to some of your assortments. And this loose line work has this untamed temperament that pairs well with both high and low contrast colorways to really make a graphic statement. And that concludes all 4 of our spring summer 2025 home shifts. So if you haven't done so already, I really encourage you to check out our trend gallery at booth 538 around the corner. I will be there to answer any questions that you might have, and you'll get to see some really beautiful fabrications showcased for each of these 4 themes as well. So thank you so much for joining today. I don't know how to end this. I don't know how to end this. Do I just stop share and then it'll let me in?
Yeah.
Here we go.